So next to paint up is Eltharion on his griffin, which I will do after this. I'm going to concentrate on the figures right now. So I've got them in 2 bits, just so I can paint things more easily. If they were all glued together, you wouldn't be able to get to certain areas. So the aim is to paint it up in the colours shown in the army book. Yeah, so fortunately there's a few good pictures in the army book with a couple of other angles, which always helps. So I'm going to go for something close to that. I'll see how we get on. So I'm going to start off with the Calidor sky on the plate mail armour, which in those pictures looks a bit more of a purple shade. So I don't know if that's just that particular shots that they took, but the blue features quite a lot across the miniature, and I would like it to match in with the rest. I've gone over the white already, as in the previous videos, with the contrast paint mix that I have, just to get started with that. So this is going to be the largest Warhammer Fantasy miniature I've painted, when complete with the Stormwing. So it's quite a intimidating, paint job to do. I think, like all these things, if you just break it down into individual steps. See, I've already gone over one of the edges there. I've not looked on the back side of the model. That's what happens when you're painting miniatures, I find anyway. There's going to be quite a lot of these small petal shapes to tackle. It should all be done in a blue-white alternate pattern. And a fair bit of tidying up to do as well. I mean, I've started with pretty much a detail brush for all of this. I'm just going to try and keep it as neat as I can and correct things if I make mistakes. So there is lots of detail on this miniature. I can see that already. It's one of the things you don't really realise quite what's involved until you start actually painting, but I think the best strategy for it is stick to a detailed brush and clean up the mistakes as you go. I do like these alternating patterns of 2 colours. The end results look good when you complete it, but it is there's a lot of fine detail here. I can't imagine how people paint this when they glue it all together and mount it on the griffin. I just can't imagine tackling it that way. And then the big headdress. And as I found with this Calidor Sky blue paint, it does require a couple of passes. You really start to appreciate the amount of sculpting that was done by hand. When you consider how tricky it is to paint something like this, and then remember that someone sculpted it at this size. That almost amazes me. And you can see I've gone over the edge in quite a few places. That's fine at this stage. I think for me it's easier to clean up and correct that as I go. Right now I'm just trying to get the paint onto the model, but it does make for a really good scheme, the blue and white. So I'll keep going on with this blue, and then I'll run a quick second coat over all of it again, just to kind of smooth it out, and then see how it looks. So what I'm doing now is just going back over the areas that should be white, adjacent to the blue. It's just to keep it neat and also prepare it for adding the shades later. I don't need to tidy up where I'll be painting other colours, but where I want to keep other parts white, I'm just going to go back and touch up some of those areas. It's mainly up on the headdress, these kind of feather shapes, where the blue can get a bit out of hand. And to a certain extent, the shades to come later will help tidy up and define these areas. But you need to make sure that the white is clean. I should say it's Oathman white that I'm using. In fact, it's not Oathman white. I should say it's Oathman grey that I'm using for this. Okay, so that's that tidied up for now anyway, and will give us a better starting point for when we apply the shades. So I think next we'll have a go at the armour. Just to get the gold started, I'm using XV88 as a base colour for that. It's a really useful colour, this one. I use it a lot. And as a basis for starting a gold, it's pretty good. Just rather than going straight onto the white primer with gold paint, which won't tend to cover very well. I'm using a bigger brush where I can, but with such fine, intricate details, I'm just sticking with this smaller brush just to help me get the paint where I want it. There's quite a lot of gold armour on the miniature, so this step should make the miniature look quite painted in when it's done. Now with the XV88 down, just one pass, just one coat of that, I'm now using Balthazar gold to start the painting for the gold overall, which goes on quite well, having set up with XV88. And do change your brush size to suit the job you're currently doing. So like in a big area like this, no point in using the little detail brush. And with the metallics as well, don't overwork it, because you can start to leave brush marks quite quickly. Not that what I'll be painting will be perfect, but nonetheless try and do it as best I can. Just onto the helmet now to get this gold on. It is quite a dark gold, but well, I mean, it's the base paint for the range. Not sure if Balthazar gold is still for sale or not. But Games Workshop, all the paints I'm using here are Games Workshop paints, or Citadel paints. Now onto the Mephiston red. I'm just painting in this pretty elaborate throne come saddle that he's riding on. And all the gemstones. They all seem to be red in the army book for this model. I keep finding red gems that I haven't painted yet. I think I've got them all now. Just a little bit of red to do at the top of the spear. Now that just leaves the two gloves to do. In red, Mephiston red. And of course there's quite a lot of detail in the gloves. These little designs at the cuff, which just add to the difficulty level. I just want to catch the edges. They're heading down towards the blue. So I just feel this miniature needs a detail brush even at this stage. Just try to be careful around the spear shaft there, just to not go over it too much with the red, if I can avoid it. Okay, there we go for the red, I think. And I've just got some of the Deathclaw brown for these pouches. either side. Couple of spots of yellow to do here and there. There's no real pictures or guidance for some of these items at the back, but there's a little sash or ribbon or something on the back of the bow and arrows, so I think I'll just use some yellow there. And then on Eltharion himself, there's a little crescent moon shape. And then there's also a bit of yellow on these triangles in contrast to the blue. And for the spear tip, I'm just using the Vallejo dark aluminium, which doesn't seem very dark to me anyway. Seems ideal for a nice bright silver finish. Also notice for the sword in his right hand that they've painted that with a kind of purple to green blend, and then there looks to be a bit of silver in there also, so I think I'm going to do that by painting it silver first and then maybe using some washes at a later stage to get that blend on top of it, because it looks like they've used maybe silver dry brush, certainly the tip of the sword. So I think we'll do it with just silver over the complete sword and then try shading it later. Whether doing it this way is going to be the right way to do it or not, I'm not sure. But it could be quite interesting to do it that way. To add the colour later to the silver. In fact, let me just go right over this for now. Just to make sure I get the silver everywhere around these runes. Just remembering to leave that little white and blue shape at the base. I'm just going to use some Eshin grey for the hair, just so I can darken that up later to almost black. There's not really any shots of him, or at least the studio painted model that I can see. And with the Eshin grey still out, the last job to do on this part of the model is to try and dot in all of the little metal studs on the backrest, just to get those started for picking them out later, because they will be dotted with some metal eventually. Tackle each of them from this angle first, and then I'll switch it around and do the other side of them. They don't really stand out too much, or some of them don't, but we're getting there now. these base colours. And there's one just on the top of the boat. And then we flip over and then just tackle each one from the opposite side. And then I've just got some pallid witch flesh just to try and catch the teeth to start that process. Just need a nice tip on the brush. Because he's an elf, so they would have good teeth, wouldn't they? And then in the eye also. Just to get some white into that. I mean, this isn't pure white, this is this off-white. And we can add some shading into the eyes just a little bit if we want to help better define them if they need it. And again, it's one of these things that helps to flip the miniature back and forth to see it better. And for the very last step, on these base colours, I'm just going to use a bit more Averland Sunset as a start for the runes on the sword, which need to be picked out in yellow. So again, I'll probably come at it from two angles at least. And just using the side of the tip of the brush really just to lay the paint onto the runes. Not too wet with the paint either. If it's too wet, it'll just flood down into the recesses. And as I said, just maybe rotate the miniature, come at it from a different direction. Okay, so that's it for all the base colours now on the two halves of this Eltharion miniature. Quite a lot of painting in that, a lot of detail, a lot of little mistakes to fix along the way, but trying to keep it as neat and tidy as I can. But it's getting there, and once you get this stage done, it does feel that you've made quite a big step, and then we can move on to doing the shades in the next video. So thanks very much for watching.